So this is a bird garden that I have in my backyard, and I'm trying to design it and improve upon it. So I just have the beginnings of it here. And my backyard is like a rectangle, so I have a fence line around it with blue spruce planted around the fence. And then I have a homemade bridge that we built, and then I put it on a diagonal. And then in front of it, I put a garden here, and it probably took me a year or two of just piling up mulch, and then I'm putting in some plants here and just trying to get it to where I feel like I can start figuring out what I really want in this area. But this area is kind of hard with lawns, so that's why I think it took me longer to just put the mulch down and just get it into like an actual functioning garden here. So I have just put stones around it that are probably not what, they're kind of a hodgepodge of whatever I had in my yard. But I do kind of like edging that way until I figure out exactly what I think should be there. So that's the way it is for now. And it does make it easy to trim around the outside of this garden. So that is kind of nice. I do like having stone around the outside if that's what works out. So on the left here, there's a big butterfly bush, and I do leave it pretty large. It's probably like 14 feet around, because it does provide some screening from my neighbors. So that is pretty big, but I do trim the side of it so that we can walk a path to the left of this garden and the right. It's kind of cool because when you come around, it's almost like a secret garden, so that in the back there you have like a triangle, and I have different things planted in there too, so it's kind of fun that way. And I do think it's like a bit of an optical illusion, so if you're looking to the corner of my yard, you kind of can't tell where it is, so it does make it look a little larger, and hopefully it just adds some interest, because before that it was just like an empty box. So I am trying to have a little fun with that secret garden concept, and I'm kind of hoping the birds like that too, just have like a little place where they can just be hanging out there, and there's normally not people back there, so hopefully it's a nice area where they will be attracted to. So in the garden right now I have lilac bee balm, and I have a rose bush, which you can just kind of see in this shot here. I also have purple cone flowers, which I transplanted from another plant in the front of my house. I have what I call a mother plant, so it's just really big, and then I can just keep taking offshoots of it every spring and kind of planting them where I want. And then this also has so this area also has coral bells, and these are just the plain green ones, and I also have some red varieties too. So I really love coral bells. Every time I go to a nursery, if they have some variety I don't have yet, I always buy a new plant of coral bells, and I really do like the red ones, but those are a little more finicky to grow. So I do like growing what I consider like the regular normal variety coral bells, and then I add to that I add different shades of red. I have lime green ones. So far I noticed that purple coneflowers are growing really well here. I have phlox growing here. Zinnia reseeded this year, which normally I'm planting it from seed every year. And I do want to do a separate video about zinnias because I do really like planting those. So those are annuals, but this year they did just come up from, I guess, seeds from last year that were in the garden. So I do find that birds, I tried to observe in my front yard, what are the birds actually feeding off of? I do find that they like the roses for cover, and this is called a Dick Clark rose, but they like the roses for cover, and then they're also feeding off of like rose hips, and so it has like a dual use, which I do think is probably good, because in this area I feel like the birds need a little bit of cover. So I think like a thorny rose bush I think is helping them with that, and that's why I placed it right next to where I hang the bird feeder. You can kind of see that hook in the background, thinking that maybe they'll be in this bush and then they can just hop over and eat. Because in our area, like we have a lot of hawks. We have hawks that will come even sit in our backyard, but I do think it's causing a problem where the birds don't like these open areas, because I think that, you know, they feel like they might be a bit of prey or something. We did even have a bald eagle come over our yard a few months ago, so that was something really exciting for me to see. So I think I would love it if I saw a bald eagle sitting around here somewhere. I think that would be pretty cool, but it did fly pretty low over our yard, so that was pretty fun. So this area, I have a plant called Hen and Chicks, and I feel like that is doing really well here, but it is really large, so I'm definitely going to just keep it at this one plant. I'm not going to add any more of that, even though I do think it's doing really well. So this section of garden is very full sun, so it goes from very full sun, and then right under the butterfly bush it goes to full shade, so it kind of has that ability for me to plant things in both areas. But of course, deep shade is hard. Most plants don't want to grow in there. So I actually have in this area, you can see a red dianthus, and that's doing okay. I wouldn't say it's doing great, so I might plant more of those. Sometimes if I plant them in groups, they do better than just having like one straggling little plant. But dianthus does really well in other areas of my yard. But this area, for some reason, I do think they're struggling a little bit here, but we'll just try it again and see what happens. I'm going to add a rose bush right here, so I actually have a rose bush ready to transplant into this garden, and that way I'll have 2 rose bushes. They're more the long stem variety, so, you know, it makes a stronger plant, I think, than like the Floribunda roses, and they also don't necessarily get out of control. Like sometimes I think my Floribunda roses just take over. So hopefully that'll work out around these feeders, because the long stem roses I can trim back if I need to, and I will, because otherwise I have a harder time weeding around, obviously, things with a bunch of thorns on them or whatever. But hopefully that'll work out good for the birds. So this area, originally I was going to put a pond here, so there's actually a pond liner under here with rocks and some smaller like pebbles in here. So I think I might beef that up a little bit, and my plan is to add some type of a bird bath. So either something that I buy, or just getting like a bowl from the Dollar Tree, or I might just fashion something from like wet cement. So that one I'm still trying to decide, but I do know I need to have some water available for the birds over here. So you see there's a blue plant there. I had originally planted cardinal flowers thinking I was going to have a pond here, but this area actually ends up naturally kind of dry, so I am glad that those cardinal flowers are still here, because cardinal flowers like being near ponds. But yeah, I do think that's a pretty blue color. So I had red and blue, and the blue are the ones that survived. So we'll see if I add more. But this area, that's one of the things I'd like to cover in future videos with this bird garden design, is a water feature. So not necessarily a fountain or anything, but maybe. I mean, we'll see. But I do know that they need some water here. So this is what it looks like, and this is in September, so everything's kind of, you know, tired and not super colorful or whatever. But this is the time of year that I need to plan for what I'm going to put in the ground this fall, so that next spring everything comes back pretty strong, and hopefully, you know, in the spring I'll be able to really start attracting more birds to this area. So there are some nests in here, and I do know this apple tree is absolutely empty of apples, so I do think the birds are back here feeding. I just tend to not see them doing that much. So I have a plan for what I'm going to do this fall, and I'm showing it to you here. So I've done a little bit of watercoloring in here so I can tell the colors of the different plants, and of course I'm pointing out to you the different side, the feeders, the location of them. But I do want to add like a golden arbor vitae that's like a yellowy color, so I have something that is evergreen in this garden. I think that would help to clean up the look a bit. I'm trying to do something that maybe only gets to 3 to 5 feet tall, something like that. And then I do have kind of an empty space here in the front, so I do have to think through what I'm going to put there. But I want to transplant some more bee balm and some phlox, and then one more rose bush. And then from seed, I'm going to plan to grow some more zinnias for next year and some sunflowers. All of those things the birds can be feeding from. So this is kind of my initial plan for what I'm going to do in this garden, just to make sure that it's attracting the birds and that the birds have plenty to eat in here. So this is part 1 of planning for this garden and just showing you what's here to begin with. And thank you so much for watching, and I will come back with the second part. So thank you.